Hello there everyone, good evening and welcome to the news tonight, where we get you the day's top stories within the next 30 minutes. Monday evening, there's already a lot that's making news. Let's take you through the headlines. I'm Trisi Shilchi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi signed 7 bilateral agreements with South Korean President Park Geun-hye to boost economic and diplomatic ties, stresses on South Korea's role for his Make in India initiative. Rahul Gandhi steps up the attack on the Modi government on his home turf Amethi, accuses the government of ignoring distressed farmers and cancelling the food park project. Turf war between Delhi government and Lieutenant Governor worsens over appointments of the top officials. LG rejects decision to replace the principal secretary. Kejriwal likely to meet the president tomorrow. Centre to announce appointment of the Central Vigilance Commissioner after the Supreme Court clears the deck. The key post has been lying vacant since last September. And the Southeast Asian migrant crisis worsens as Indonesia asks fishermen to abandon those stranded at sea. Foreign ministers of Malaysia, Thailand and Indonesia to meet to decide the future of the migrants. Our top story: after China and Mongolia, Prime Minister Narendra Modi reached Seoul in South Korea today, the last leg of his 3-nation tour, signing several agreements to ease trade flow between the two countries. Modi also stressed on the importance of South Korea for his Make in India program. Here's a report.
On to another Asian powerhouse, to the region's 4th largest economy. On the final leg of his 3-nation tour, Prime Minister Modi reached South Korea on Monday morning. In Seoul, a meeting with the Indian diaspora came before his official meetings. Over 1,500 Indians attended the community reception. And once again, the economic partnership with South Korea, India's potential as an investment hub, the people-to-people links and a strategic potential were thrust areas, even alongside a dig at past governments back home.
मेरी सरकार की नीति का एक महत्वपूर्ण हिस्सा है खास करके विदेश नीति का, और वो है एक्ट ईस्ट पॉलिसी। पहले था लुक ईस्ट पॉलिसी। अब बहुत देख लिया। जब पहले सुनते थे कि 21वीं सदी एशिया की सदी है, तो लगता था कि एशिया की सदी में हम भी कहीं होंगे कि नहीं होंगे। लेकिन आज एशिया को लगता है कि अब हिंदुस्तान जिस प्रकार से उठ खड़ा हुआ है, 21वीं सदी एशिया की सदी बन के रहेगी।
At the one-on-one meetings with President Park Geun-hye and delegation-level talks, the two sides underscored the potential of a closer partnership in a range of areas. 7 bilateral agreements were signed, from taxation, power, audiovisual production, transport and more. Modi termed the meeting the foundation of a relationship that Asian nations with shared values should have.
We consider Korea a crucial partner in India's economic modernization. We are pursuing a comprehensive program of economic modernization that covers all sectors of our economy and all aspects of our policies and procedures. We have a special focus on infrastructure and developing a world-class manufacturing sector.
The Prime Minister called on UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon ahead of a banquet hosted by the South Korean President. Lined up for Tuesday, the Asian Leadership Conference, meetings with business leaders and a Hyundai factory visit.
Korea may be important for Make in India mission of Indian government, but Korea also has to learn from democratic principle of India in international politics. The important thing is that India should not be trapped into the internal politicking of Japan, Korea and China, so that our own interests are hampered. Akhilesh Suman in Seoul with camera person Dusmanta for Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, let's look into further detail what both countries hope to achieve from this visit of Prime Minister Modi to South Korea. We've got Vijayanti Raghavan, who's the professor at the Center for Korean Studies at JNU, joining us now from the capital. Vijayanti, thanks so much for joining us. Just give us a sense, really, first of all, of what you make of these agreements that have been signed between both of the countries and, the kind of bonhomie that we're seeing between Modi and, of course, the South Korean leadership as well, continuing from China to Mongolia and now South Korea.
Yeah, this is an important visit because South Korea has been looking to partner with India in a big way, and I think we could benefit too by partnering with them in various areas, and which have already been identified, and they are going ahead with it. Korea was very keen that besides manufacturing and electronic goods, that we got beyond that and understood Korea for what it was, understand Korean culture. And I think that they are trying to achieve through cooperation in the audiovisual production sector. What I think that we could learn from them is, a kind of a discipline or work culture. If we could carry that forward and we could incorporate that as one of the agreements, I don't know how it could be done, but that's a major thing that we could learn from Korea.
In a way, when you see the way Prime Minister Modi is actually getting to these Southeast Asian countries, the bonhomie we're seeing, of course, between all these countries, it's and also him saying it's time now not just to look east but act east as well. Is there, it's just a coinage of a term, or is there something that we can be seeing very quickly on this front as far as the countries, including India, is concerned on this?
So far we've only had written agreements. I don't think we've implemented very many of them. But now is the time, I think, to actually put them into action. And with his Make in India, a kind of a policy initiative that he has taken, and South Korea is also looking for alternatives to divert some of their investments to places other than China and the US. And India provides a very good alternative for them as well to access the West, the Middle East and Africa, and so they would like to make India a manufacturing hub as well. And even in the sea lines of communication, which is a major area nowadays, I think there is a lot of scope for cooperating over there as well. It's an important area for the South Koreans. A lot of their fuel passes through the South China Sea. And if we cooperate there, I think both countries could unitedly achieve something.
All right. Very quickly,
Act Asia is what I think. Yes?
Yes. Very quickly, here in India, of course, it's 1 year of Modi's government. There's a lot of criticism, of course, coming in. But we cannot deny the fact that, his charismatic personality carries him through, and somehow, he tends to get all these crowds cheering for him and cheering for his mantra of Make in India. But, as what you've seen, especially in South Korea, how are they viewing him as compared to perhaps other Indian leaders that they've met before?
There's a lot of hope that they hold by him, but he needs to deliver quickly because Koreans by nature are impatient and they want quick results.
Yes.
But more than that, I think with the POSCO fiasco, they are just waiting, in the sense they've learned to be patient with India, and they will wait for some time, but he'll have to deliver on various fronts. Make licensing or make manufacturing easier for them in India, provide them with procedural conveniences, and simplify the legal procedures. So they look to him, they're very hopeful, they haven't lost hope yet, and he needs to act quickly. quickly.
All right, Vaijayanti Raghavan, thanks so much for joining us, giving us your perspective into how the South Koreans, of course, are viewing Modi and how eventually relationships are going to further prosper, we hope, of course, between the two countries. Meanwhile, let's head back home now. And Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi stepped up his attack on the Modi government, accusing it of doing nothing for distressed farmers across the country. During his tour to Amethi today, Rahul Gandhi once again raised the issue of the proposed food park, blaming the centre of cancelling the project.
Rahul Gandhi today drove into his parliamentary constituency, Amethi. He trekked 2 kilometers to the site where a proposed food park was to be built. He had raised the issue of the food park project being cancelled during the budget session. He once again blamed the centre for cancelling it, a charge rejected by the concerned minister.
विजन था, सोच थी कि हम फूड पार्क लाएं, यहाँ पे 5, 6, 10 डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स का फायदा हो, किसानों का फायदा हो, मजदूरों का फायदा हो, मगर अब मोदी सरकार ने उसको छीन लिया और मुझसे नहीं छीना है, वो किसान से, मजदूर से, कमजोर लोगों से छीना है।
यूपीए की सरकार थी, उसी समय में जो है फूड पार्क का निर्णय हो गया था कि इसको बंद कर दिया जाएगा। जो कंपनी थी उसने अपना हाथ खींच लिया था कि जो हमारे साथ में कंडीशन है वो कंडीशन में क्या कहते हैं कि हम नहीं कर पाएंगे, इसलिए फैसला क्या कहते हैं पहली गवर्नमेंट का था।
Reacting on the first anniversary of the Modi government, Rahul Gandhi scored a 0 out of 10 points for its performance for its handling of issues involving farmers and labourers. He was particularly critical of the Prime Minister's tours abroad at a time when farmers are battling crop losses.
हिंदुस्तान का गरीब, हिंदुस्तान का मजदूर, हिंदुस्तान का किसान, हिंदुस्तान का छोटा बिजनेसमैन, हिंदुस्तान के जो मिडिल क्लास के लोग हैं, इनको शून्य मार्क्स देंगे। मगर इनके जो 2-3 उद्योगपति दोस्त हैं, ये इनको 10 में से 10 नंबर देंगे।
Since his return from an 8-week sabbatical, Rahul Gandhi has been touring parts of the country, meeting the families of distressed farmers. His visit to Amethi, a first in 6 months, came days after HRD Minister Smriti Irani's tour, amid accusations that he has neglected his own constituency. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, the turf war between the Lieutenant Governor and the AAP government in Delhi worsened today. A fresh face-off bruise over the LG's decision, rejecting the AAP government's decision to replace the Principal Secretary. Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal had removed Anindya Majumdar last Saturday for allegedly clearing the appointment of Chief Secretary Shakuntala Gamlin despite the government's objections. Kejriwal is now likely to meet the President on the matter tomorrow.
In the latest standoff between the AAP government in Delhi and Lieutenant Governor Najib Jung, 2 more IS officers are facing the brunt. On Monday, AAP government appointed Chief Minister's Secretary Rajendra Kumar as Principal Secretary of Services Department. He replaced Anindya Majumdar, who was removed by Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal for allegedly clearing the appointment of Chief Secretary Shakuntala Gamlin, despite the government's objections. However, the Lieutenant Governor rejected Rajendra Kumar's appointment, terming it void. Reacting to the appointment, the LG shot off a letter to Kejriwal, noting that it did not have his approval. Meanwhile, Anindya Majumdar's office was locked out since Monday morning, as per the directive from Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's office. Though it reopened later in the day, Majumdar's chamber remained closed. The turf war between the LG and the AAP government over the appointments for key bureaucratic posts drew sharp criticism from other parties.
अगर हर जगह टकराव होना है तो इससे किसको फायदा होगा? पर सारा प्रशासन ठप पड़ा है आज की तारीख में। ना एलजी को उससे कोई मतलब, एलजी साहब अपने मजे ले रहे हैं, मुख्यमंत्री अपने मजे ले रहे हैं।
The Lieutenant Governor of Delhi is playing according to the rule book of the Constitution, and Delhi Chief Minister Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, from all indications, wants to treat the Constitution of India the way he treats his own party constitution. He should understand this is serious governance matters. He cannot take things into his own hand.
Meanwhile, Shakuntala Gamlin, whose appointment as Delhi's Chief Secretary kicked off the ongoing tussle, met the Home Secretary on Monday. The ministry took strong exception to Kejriwal resorting to malign her in public.
Is completely within the domain of the Delhi government. Central government or the Minister of Home Affairs would not like to intervene or interfere here. If the Chief Minister is not agreeable to the appointment of a particular IS officer as Chief Secretary, then there are forums to make issue through official means.
The AAP government has accused the centre of trying to influence Gamlin's appointment through the LG. Kejriwal is likely to meet President Pranab Mukherjee on the issue on Tuesday evening. With inputs from Anu Devan, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, the government has announced that the Central Vigilance Commissioner would be appointed in a couple of days. This comes after the Supreme Court today cleared the decks for the appointment of the CVC. The key post has been lying vacant since CVC Pradeep Kumar retired in September 2014.
After a gap of more than 6 months, the Central Vigilance Commissioner and Vigilance Commissioner will be appointed in the next few days. The Department of Personnel and Training has said that the process of appointment has already started. It said that litigation in the Supreme Court delayed the appointments.
As a follow-up of that, we had a court appearance a couple of days back, and the court has given us the green signal to go ahead.
However, Congress has urged the government to consult all stakeholders before appointments are finalized. The CVC Act has a provision for including leader of the single largest opposition party in case there is no leader of opposition in the lower house. The 3-member selection panel is headed by the Prime Minister.
Hopefully the government will follow the direction of the Supreme Court, taking into account and confidence all the stakeholders there, including the leader of the opposition or leader of the largest opposition party.
Last week, the Supreme Court permitted the centre to go ahead with the selection and appointment of the key posts. It also asked the centre to furnish the details of the appointment procedure.
Supreme Court has made it clear the process must be very transparent and there should not be any arbitrariness.
The post of the CVC has been lying vacant since Pradeep Kumar retired in September in 2014. The government has now received 135 applications for the posts. 10 names have been shortlisted for each post. The list would now be placed before the high-powered panel to finalize the appointments. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
In other news, President Pranab Mukherjee addressed a special session of Uttarakhand Legislative Assembly today as part of his 2-day visit to the state. Speaking highly of India's parliamentary democracy, the President stressed on the importance of sticking to parliamentary practices, procedures and conventions for business of the House. He also said that with the heightened complexity of administration, legislation must be preceded by adequate discussion and scrutiny. He also urged the Uttarakhand Assembly as well as other assemblies to consider increasing the number of sittings so that issues of the state can be thoroughly discussed and debated upon.
It is reassuring. The job of a legislator is 24/7 hours responsibility. Legislators must at all times be committed to addressing the problems of the people. They must give voice to the grievances of the public by raising them on the floor of the House and act as the link between the people and the government. They must always keep in mind that young and aspirational Indians expect them to be service providers.
With a quick break here, but still ahead, the US warns of fresh sanctions against North Korea after recent missile tests and reported execution of the top defense official.
महात्मा बुद्ध, गुरु गोरक्षनाथ और कबीर की भूमि, मानवता, सद्भाव और प्रगति से जुड़ी लोक जीवन की पारंपरिक अभिव्यक्तियां, सदियों पुरानी धरोहर की झांकी, देखिए हमारी स्पेशल रिपोर्ट लोक रंग में, सिर्फ राज्यसभा टीवी पर।
Welcome back. Let's get you some national news now, and on to news of a death that comes as a relief at last to the victim after a tragic life. Aruna Shanbag passed away this morning, a full 42 years after she was raped and went into a coma. Shanbag spent the last 4 decades of her life brain dead in a vegetative state, attached to a ventilator in an ICU at Mumbai's KEM hospital. Reports say that she had contracted pneumonia over the last few days. Aruna was 26 when she had joined the hospital as a nurse. She was sexually assaulted by a ward boy who also choked her with a chain. This cut off blood supply to the brain, resulting in brainstem contusion and injury to her cervical cord, leaving her blind. She was artificially kept alive on a ventilator at Mumbai's KEM hospital. And now let's get you some quick national news updates. The Sensex rose for the second straight day today by surging 363 points. The closing figures of 27,687 was the highest in the last 3 weeks. The Nifty also gained 115 points and closed at 8,377. The Delhi High Court issued a notice to the centre on the plea of Greenpeace against the suspension of its registration. The High Court asked the government if it can allow Greenpeace to use its domestic accounts for its day-to-day operations and to pay salaries. Licenses of Greenpeace were cancelled for allegedly failing to declare details of donations from abroad. Draupadi Murmu was today sworn in as the first woman governor of Jharkhand. Murmu succeeded Syed Ahmed, who will now take over as the governor of Manipur. A two-time BJP MLA from Odisha, Murmu was the minister in the Naveen Patnaik cabinet when the BJD ruled the state with the support of the BJP. A massive fire broke out in the old New Market area in central Kolkata today. Around 20 fire tenders were rushed to the spot to tackle the inferno that gutted a part of the 141-year-old market. However, no casualty has been reported in the incident. The cause of the fire could not be ascertained as yet. On to international news now. And amid growing migrant crisis in Southeast Asia, Indonesia has asked its fishermen to leave them abandoned at sea. Thousands of migrants from Bangladesh and Myanmar are now suffering from food and water shortage. Foreign ministers from Malaysia, Indonesia and Thailand will meet to discuss the future course of action as the UN warned of massive humanitarian crisis.
Migrant crisis has got worse in Southeast Asia. Stranded for days without food and water, thousands of migrants from Bangladesh and Myanmar are seeking help as authorities ruled helping them out. Few survivors who made it ashore narrated stories of fights on board for food.
Indonesia pun Muslim pian negeri, Malaysia pun Muslim pian negeri. Kalau semua orang suka sini, saya pun sini. Semua orang suka sana, saya suka sana, macam itu saja.
Malaysia has blockaded its northwestern sea border to stop migrants from entering. Thailand repaired the migrant boat engines and sent them back to sea, denying any entry. Reports suggest that Indonesian fishermen have been ordered not to help any migrants even if they are found sinking. Thailand denied reports of pushing migrants back to the sea.
อันไหนที่มันอยู่นอกน้ำไทยเราก็จะบอกเขาว่าถ้านอกน้ำไทยเนี่ยอยากเข้ามาในประเทศไทยนะถ้าเข้ามาเนี่ยเรามีกฎหมายผิดกฎหมายนะเป็นผู้หลบหนีเข้าเมืองนะครับนี่เนี่ยผู้หลบหนีเข้าเมืองผิดกฎหมายเราไม่ผลักดันใครทั้งหมดนะครับต้องเป็นความต้องการของเขาในการที่จะทำอย่าถาม
Foreign ministers from Malaysia, Indonesia and Thailand will meet in Kuala Lumpur later on Wednesday to seek solution to the migrant crisis. Talks would focus on human trafficking and people smuggling in the Southeast Asian region. The United Nations Refugee Agency reports suggest that nearly 25,000 people from Bangladesh and Rohingya Muslims have boarded smugglers' boats in the first 3 months of this year, twice as many as in 2014. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
EU foreign ministers, meanwhile, are meeting in Brussels today to discuss the Mediterranean migrant crisis. Later, they are expected to approve a military plan to destroy the smugglers' boats in the Mediterranean region. They will also devise a mission to tackle the illegal migration. However, they will need to have a legal backing from the United Nations for the same. Illegal migration has become a hot topic of discussion after over 700 people drowned in the sea off the Libyan coast following a boat capsize.
the main point will be taking the decision to establish the operation, the EU operation at sea to dismantle the criminal networks that are smuggling people in the Mediterranean. I would expect this decision to be taken today so that we can move forward with the planning and possibly launch the operation in the coming weeks.
The Royal Navy is already saving lives at sea, but we need to agree action today to get after the criminal gangs and to disrupt the trafficking networks.
Meanwhile, the US is considering fresh sanctions on North Korea for its nuclear program. During his visit to South Korea today, US Secretary of State John Kerry slammed Kim Jong-un's leadership of reckless provocation and called for increased international pressure. He also raised concerns over Islamic State's expanding influence in Iraq.
US Secretary of State John Kerry issued a stern warning to North Korea on Monday, saying it could face fresh sanctions if it fails to rein in its nuclear program. During his visit to South Korea, Kerry accused Kim Jong-un's leadership of faltering on its promises and showing blatant disregard for international law.
The United States continues to offer Pyongyang an improved bilateral relationship if and only if and when it demonstrates a genuine willingness to fulfill its denuclearization obligations and commitments.
Amid reports of Kim Jong-un ordering the execution of his defense chief, Kerry said it was likely that it would be referred to the International Criminal Court if its current behavior on human rights continues.
If their horrific conduct continues, it is hard to see how that referral to the criminal court would not take place.
또한 북한으로 하여금 비핵화를 위한 전략적 선택을 하도록 중러를 포함한 5자 간의 긴밀한 협력 하에 보다 강력한 압박과
Speaking on the situation in the Middle East, Kerry said he was confident the Islamic State takeover of the western Iraqi city of Ramadi would be reversed in coming weeks.
Their movements, by and large, have been reduced, but that's not everywhere. But I am absolutely confident in the days ahead that will be reversed.
Islamic State militants claimed they had taken full control of Ramadi on Sunday in the biggest defeat for the Iraqi government since last summer. The Iraqi government is reported to be sending Iran-backed Shia militias to Ramadi to recapture the city. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
With that, let's get you some quick international updates in Global Buzz. Fighting resumed in war-torn Yemen a day after the 5-day ceasefire ended. The Yemeni foreign minister blamed the Houthi rebels for fresh fightings. The ceasefire was violated despite repeated pleas from the UN and aid agencies to extend and allow aid supplies. Syria has regained control of the archaeological city of Palmyra. The World Heritage Site was taken over by the Islamic State militants earlier. The ancient city of Palmyra is strategically significant because of its links to the cities of Homs and Damascus. 9 people were killed in a shootout among rival motorcycle gangs in central Texas in the U.S. on Sunday. 18 others are reportedly injured. Violence erupted shortly after the fight spilled onto the parking lot, initially involving just fists and feet, but escalating quickly to chains, knives, clubs and firearms. An investigation is underway. Burundi protest leaders have called for more demonstrations against the President Pierre Nkurunziza after 3 days of a failed coup. They are protesting against Nkurunziza's third presidential bid, which is against the constitutional rules. Meanwhile, tens of thousands have fled the country fearing violence. And that's all we have for you on the news tonight from the entire team here. Good night.